Pushing the boundaries of expectations, rewriting the rules of adventure are the reasons we get up in the morning. We share your hunger for a life without limits.
Greetings, hello. Welcome back to your friendly neighborhood Kinetic Belief podcast, manifesting podcast, where all of us get to determine our reality. And if you don't know what to choose the abundant life. Maggie and I are so glad to have all of you back with us today. Happy New Year, everybody. You're the reason that we're here this new year. If you would like to receive an occasional text message from me, us, and it's an occasional text message. The word kinetic is what you need to send. Type it.
Goodness gracious.
I got to get this continuous thought process going.
Where do they send the word kinetic?
To 844-844-0049. StephenCanyon.com is the website. Follow us on Instagram at Stephen Canyon and make sure that you do subscribe to this podcast because we're not very predictable.
It's so good.
And you'll know.
And it's just so good.
And you don't want to miss it because of how good it is.
I feel like I'm on The Price is Right. You're like, welcome.
Yeah.
Manifesting hour. You got a new car.
Yes. And the fact that you could get the new car, that's the only reason that we are here. Just for you guys.
True. This is true.
Hi, Miss Maggie.
Hey, Stephen.
Welcome back.
I'm so excited.
Are you having a good new year?
We're here. We're back. Yes. Life is boring when we're not podcasting.
Isn't it, though?
What?
You're like, I'm tired of being
unproductive,
tired and bored.
I feel unproductive. Well, we love everything we do in life, and I mean that, everything.
And when you love everything you do, when you stop doing it,
it's irritating.
It's irritating.
I was irritated.
New Year's resolutions, do you have any of them?
Ooh.
Did you make any? It kind of came and went with me. I don't think I really thought about it.
Well, I have to say, it's the concept of thinking that I'm going to be this, transformed person at midnight is a little off-putting.
I get that because that's what we talk about all the time.
I mean, it worked for Cinderella and everything, but I can't. So I need to progress over time. Resolutions kind of freak me out. And not to put down anyone doing a resolution, but for me personally, it does not work well because I'm a failure within hours. I mean, I fail all of them.
Well, and if you're doing this the correct way, every day is the day of a new year of resolutions.
True.
We're resolving every day to grow and develop and become more and to...
You know what it is?
What?
It's too much pressure.
Is that
Way
what
too
it
much
is?
pressure.
Because you got this one stroke of midnight once a year, and you better get it right. And then come next year, you're doing the same thing again.
Because if there's too much pressure, I'm going to purposefully fail just to get rid of it. Like, get off me. I'm not going to do this well, so let's just fail immediately.
Pressure.
Yeah.
It's like you're at summer camp and the counselor comes in and campers, you've got 10 more minutes to sleep. 10 more minutes.
Sure.
Is it like that?
It's not like that,
Pressure.
but if that's your version of pressure, you know what? Pressure, isn't that sort of hand in hand, Stephen? Isn't that sort of hand in hand with expectation? You feel like, oh my gosh, I'm expecting so much of myself in the next 24 hours.
Because now you're adding the element of hurry and worry, because which is rooted in fear.
This is true. How much have you told us about time?
That's right. Because anytime you're fearing that the future is not going to hold what you're aspiring for or to, then you're worrying and hurrying, and it's in an accurate way of approaching life. I
have to say, we did have a really interesting conversation about conversations during this time, and I think that's the how you actually can grow and evolve. I think that's sort of like a secret weapon. Because it helps if you can't take your thoughts about something and get them out and articulate them and then even like banter about them, it's very difficult to implement it.
Conversations are so vital to our success, aren't they?
They are. Good
conversation. There's power in words, power in our conversations, and that's why we talk all the time about.
That's why we talk all the time.
Talk all the time about conversations. And choose your conversations wisely. Yeah. Talk about things that you're not accustomed to talking about, especially if it's something negative. Don't bring it up. Don't think about it. Don't dwell on it. Don't get on that bandwagon.
Well, and it seats it, right? So I know that when you and I can just take a topic of anything, especially something positive, and we discuss it, we roll it around, and we bat it back and forth, it seats it in my spirit. And so I think that's probably the best way to keep a resolution. If we're even doing that.
Well, you're seating it into mindfulness, where you begin to reason with it. And when you do that, your focus becomes part of the bias of what you're reasoning. And then, of course, you're going to manifest the very thing that you're talking about. Yeah.
Well, we've been conditioned. I think if anytime you're struggling to implement kinetic belief and do it the way you want to do it in your life, a lot of times it's just the product of bad conditioning for years and years and years. And so, for me, our conversations they just play a huge role. And it's like, isn't that like the bedrock of humanity or something? Like being able to have conversations.
Good. Yes. And so, and that's so vital.
Yeah.
Good conversations. Yeah. There's power.
Which we're having right now.
And good that's right. That's what this podcast is, a good conversation.
Yes.
And the power in it is released for us all to enjoy. Right?
Well said, sir. Sorry, I was drinking my tea.
Oh, that's okay. Speaking of New Year's resolutions, we were at the gym. When was it? On Saturday. This was on... that was January 1st, right?
Nope, it was New Year's Eve.
Oh, New Year's Eve.
Yes.
And this is a small gym where you and I, we've been going for... 4 or 6 weeks. Just we're kind of new in the area, just for a few weeks. Yeah. And we've been going, and we are the only ones in this gym.
Yeah.
Until New Year's Eve.
Oh my word.
There were 50 people in a room that has maybe 30 pieces of equipment.
Yeah, they were frenzying.
They were jumping up and down, and they were running around the room, and they were doing push-ups and sit-ups, and they came from out of the woodwork.
They came from the hills.
They came in.
I thought you were going to say the woods. They came in
the woods. But then we went back again on actually the next day. And there's nobody there.
Yeah. Well, great example of why resolutions make me nervous. Because look at what happens. How bad do you feel about yourself?
Amazing.
The next day. Well, you know what probably happened, though? I do feel a little compassion for those people because I recently did way too much in a workout and, I can barely sit down.
Oh, they're still feeling it.
So I feel...
They're done.
I feel that.
It. They have worked out they will feel it all year.
Oh, yeah. I'm still feeling it. I'm pretty sore today, but...
Speaking of New Year's resolutions, I kind of admire those guys. Up there on Oak Island, is it? They're looking for treasure.
Yes.
And
Rick and Marty. They've been
looking for this treasure.
It's a History Channel show.
Right.
You should say, yeah.
It's a History Channel show.
To clue everyone in.
But it's been fascinating to watch them for 8 years.
For the last 10 years of my life.
Looking for treasure. But they're, great, really interesting personalities and fun to watch. But they've started looking for treasure in the off season with metal detectors down in Florida, and I don't know.
Yeah. It's an interesting show. They do a good job of just showing you all the different ways that they're trying to find the treasure. And probably the thing I find most impressive about that show is the passion that they're able to continue to conjure up season after season after season, having, found a significant piece of a significant horseshoe or something.
One of the first pennies.
Yeah. So, that's impressive.
But it's the not knowing from one moment to the next what's going to manifest. Isn't that the spice of life? Yeah. Is you are always expecting more.
True. Yeah.
And to find the treasure of abundance to come. But you're doing something with your life that could and invariably will produce more abundance, sustenance.
Positive expectations.
Right. So they're doing that. I guess I'm going to pass on the metal detecting, but I can see how that would be stimulating.
Well, it could be a little addictive, right? Especially if you find something. Like if you found something valuable early on, I can totally see how it would capture you.
I would love to this year maybe learn some cover music because I play piano, but everything I play it's just stuff I make up.
Yes.
It's all original music. And the problem is every time I sit down and I start to try to play someone else's music, I get a few minutes into it and then I just start making stuff up again. So I don't ever get very far.
I'm going to tell on you for a second. This was so funny. We laughed for weeks about this. You played me a new song and you're like, I think I have a good melody here. And then I'm like, honey, that's Josh Groban.
Well, he's
like,
got good taste then. He did something with it, I guess, that I didn't. That's
How
Josh
exciting,
Groban.
though.
I didn't know that.
For a moment to think that you wrote You Raise Me Up.
I know. Well, it got in there somehow, and it had to come out.
That's thrilling. But we do have a concert coming up, St. Pete Beach.
Yeah, that's
Valentine's
correct.
Eve, and the whole orchestra is going to be there. It's going to be wonderful, and you can go to candleligorchestra.com if anybody wants to
It's
attend.
going to be at the Pink Palace there
Yeah.
at the Don Cesar.
Yes, it's going to be wonderful.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dogs. How about the number of dogs out on the beach? I guess a lot of people have maybe realized a New Year's resolution by going out and getting a little dog. And I saw something, there's like, 28 million dogs have been bought or adopted during the pandemic?
Yeah.
Because we were just noting the other day how many people, I've never seen so many dogs on the beach. Almost every single person walking by has got a dog or two, or some people have 5 dogs and they're going up and down I love the little doggies.
If you've ever looked into the eyes, though, of a puppy, I mean, you understand. I mean, it's intoxicating. That's why you have to stay away from them. If you don't want a dog, don't go pet the puppies.
Because the dog comes with a hangover.
What?
There's a price to be paid.
Oh, I get it. I get it. Consequence. Okay.
There's a consequence.
There's a puppy hangover, and it's called owning a dog.
We've learned to love
dogs.
other people's dogs
I love
because
them.
you can't own them all.
I have to say, though, I'm constantly fighting that battle of not going out and getting one because we travel too much. It's not fair to the pup, really.
Expectations.
Yeah.
What kind of expectations do we have? You met some young girl the other day.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you were getting your hair washed or something. And
My annual washing.
yeah, it's time to wash your hair. So, and you said some young girl came in and she's telling you about her life and mentioned how she loves to go sailing and she really would like to find in the future a man or a husband that also likes to sail.
Yes.
Because otherwise she didn't think she could handle seeing her love
interest.
her love interest wearing an orange life vest.
She said, I don't think I could
she's
watch
out.
him fumbling around with the ropes and wearing the orange life vest. And I just started laughing uncontrollably. I said, honey, that's not how it works. I said, you've guaranteed yourself that that's the kind of man you're going to fall in love with, because that's the funny part. Love does crazy things. And, you'll find yourself like, honey, let me get a picture of you. Oh, he's so cute in his orange life vest.
You fall in love with the life vest. You fall in love with the little silly things.
Love can't, love turns everything about a person into cuteness and adoration. And I know.
And you're just easy to love because you're just cool.
Oh, please.
I mean, you are. You're just cool.
See, don't say that.
You're not crying.
Then people are going to expect it. I can't live up to that.
Well, that's
Makes
that's
me-
what makes you cool is you're not trying to live up
This is the
to it.
expectation thing I'm talking about.
It's people like myself that we work on the cool walk and the cool talk. We work on it. We try to be cool. And that's not cool. There's nothing cool about trying to be cool.
You're so cool, Steve. You're totally cool.
Well, let's talk about fate. Let's talk about
I'm excited about this topic.
I've been thinking a lot about fate, and we get caught up quite often in some deep discussions about serendipitous moments and what people call, a fateful thing happening to them, and just by chance this happened, and my luck is good or my luck is bad, and all that stuff, which we can package into the small word fate, commonly referred to as just it's the development of events that seem like they're beyond a person's control, right? Mm-hmm. And in fact, most religions will point to fate as being determined by a supernatural intervention of some kind.
Yeah.
The planets were aligned, the stars are aligned, whatever it is. But what we really understand now, then we understand this through quantum observations and the power of kinetic belief, is that the bias of what a person believes in their heart, what they really believe deep down, and so deep that it becomes a subconscious belief. It's like breathing. You don't think about it anymore. It's a belief that if you don't, things aren't going to go very well. And so mindfully then this is what forms the substance of things that are hoped for from the expectations of conscious awareness, being aware of the world around you. And it's by impressing the thoughts of an unexpected reality upon the formless substance in the universe. This is how we cause things that we think about to be created. Whether you know this is how you're doing it or not, this is what develops and creates the life that you are now experiencing. It's because of what you biasly believe or don't believe to be true and accurate for yourself. And so what I'm saying is that what we think about is not fortuitous. It does not produce fate in the proper definition of the word fate. What we dwell upon is a choice. What you and I, actually, like we started off today's podcast saying, is that what we choose to have conversations about is actually a choice, whether you feel like you just randomly started jabbering about something or not. It's still a choice. It's a mindful choice. And that's what creates circumstances. That is what develops things. That is what establishes a life flow that's coming from within, that's going to be experienced. You will experience the life flow that you're creating from within through those things. And now there is no exception to the kinetic energies of belief manifesting the substance of that belief. So everybody, Maggie, has this authority, and each one of us has this dominion. That's how we're created. That's who we are. It's the stuff that was used to make us in the image of God.
Well, and I find it really interesting that you just started by talking about, you said even if you just start jabbering about something that you don't mean to, it still matters. And so it seems like the first step in this is making sure that we're constantly developing that level of mindfulness where we are aware of every conversation we're having and everything that we're speaking and the things that we're dwelling on. And, mindfulness is absolutely cultivated and necessary for this.
Necessary because it is imperative to understand that no one is immune from this process. It's working for you or against you, whether you believe it, want it, desire it, don't desire it, whatever, you're still participating in it. If I throw you off of a cruise ship, you're going to swim whether you want to or not, or you're going to get wet. Let me put it that way, whether you want to get wet or not. You're in the water, you're in this life, you're on this planet, you are a citizen of the universe, so act like one.
These things are at work, and we have to make them work for us.
If only one person, just take one person that applies the law of attraction, the 100-day guided journal modalities that we've written about, talk about. If only one person attracts the life that they were put here to experience by making adjustments to their daily life patterns in the way that our 100-day law of attraction guided journal instructs them to do, that's evidence. I mean, that's positive proof that by making attitudinal adjustments in a certain way and by learning to think in a certain way, now that's important. You've got to learn to think in a certain way. By changing the manner in which a person thinks about things and the motivations, of course, behind why they do things in the way that they want to do them, all of us acquire the ability to think the way we want to and the way that we should be thinking. And this is the first step toward becoming a positive, manifesting life force, doing life intentionally, experiencing life intentionally the way that you desire to.
And it sounds like journaling is such a big part of this because, like you're telling us right now, becoming aware of your thoughts and how you're using them and how we're perpetuating them, it's going to be, again, the first step. And I think when you're at the beginning of that, it can feel impossible. The idea of changing your thoughts, constructing them, something you've never done before. You're sitting there going, is that even possible? And so the journaling, it plays a huge role, especially at the beginning. And
it seems impossible because a lot of times when we start this, or when somebody starts the process of working through the kinetic belief modalities, what they don't do at first is to remove themselves from the environment that has created the environment that they're experiencing. In other words, the conversations that have created the negative experiences, the force behind the reasonings, the illogical logic that's being applied to, in a negative way, their actual genius of purpose that's manifesting an ulterior life for them, with an ulterior motive that is opposite the actual motive of their heart's desire.
So that makes me wonder, when we're working on this, is it going to be a solid wisdom to look for ways to, I don't know if disrupt is the right word, but to change our, you mentioned environment. Obviously, environment is a huge factor, even if we change it slightly. Is that going to be a big part of kind of waking ourselves up to this?
Yeah, it is. And the way what's really interesting about that, Meg, is that when you change your expectations, all change comes from within. Yeah. So we can't go around here in the environment rearranging our circumstances, but what we do is we arrange our expectations. We arrange our internal thoughts and what we allow ourselves to dwell upon, for example. I mean, to think what you want to think is to think your chosen truth, regardless of appearances.
Wow. Will you say that one more time?
To think what you want to think is to think your truth, regardless of the way things appear. So every person has the natural and inherent power to think what they want to think. We have that ability. But it requires so much more effort to choose our thoughts than it does to think the thoughts that are suggested by the way things appear to be and suggested by the negative narrative that is around us, which is everywhere in every direction.
And I have to say, what you just took us through, that takes energy. You know, that takes vigilance. This is not an armchair experience that we're going to be having. I mean, this is a get up off the couch, off the spiritual couch. Pay attention to what you're saying, because I love how you said make those choices. We're constantly choosing. And eventually that can become a habit. But it's never set in stone to the point where we don't have to stop paying attention to it.
Well, and it's not easy, because to think according to the way things appear that's easy.
Yes.
I mean, that's, we can do that.
That's the default, really.
That's the default, and that's the easy thing. But to think according to our genius of purpose, in positive growth and toward the abundant life, regardless of circumstances, that is laborious. And it requires the expenditure of far more power than any other endeavor a person could ever be called upon to perform in this life. There is no effort from which most people run from than that of sustained and consecutive thought. I'm telling you, there is nothing that people don't want to get away from any quicker than that. Actually, life-producing kinetic belief is the most difficult challenge on the entire planet, and therefore the universe. And that's why you've got 1% of people on this planet that are actually successfully doing it.
Do you think it's because of who we are innately, or is it because there's such a tide trying to pull us in the other direction?
Yeah, the reason is because truth is contrary, or the subjective truth is contrary to the natural ebb of appearances. It's a contradiction. And so to sustain the contradiction, what do you have to do? You've got to continually go back to your blueprint for the life you're choosing to experience. And that becomes your article of faith, your article of kinetic belief, rather than appearances.
I kind of love, though, that you, in order to truly be a kinetic believer and live this lifestyle, you do have to be willing to be a little cuckoo, to look cuckoo to other people.
Peculiar.
Because, yes, I'm the gal that constantly talks about things that you can't see yet. Yes, I am. Don't worry about it.
That's why you wear the flowing clothing that you wear. It suits you. And yes, and it's a beautiful thing, but you're absolutely right. It is peculiar.
Yeah.
And you are going in the other direction. Everybody, and I was telling somebody the other day that, if as soon as you see everybody running in one direction, go in the direction that they're running from.
Correct.
And you'll be just fine.
Swim upstream.
Go upstream, because look, every appearance in the visible world produces the default corresponding form in the egoic mind, which is observing it. And this can only be cast down and prevented by holding the thought of your life's truths that you choose to be true for you according to your unique, one-of-a-kind, beautiful, artistic, creative purpose for being on this planet.
And I love the nuts and bolts, like sort of the micro version of what you just said, because when we hold those truths in our mind, it's almost as if it's a quiver. I did a lot of archery as a kid. My grandparents taught me how, and honestly, I just loved wearing the quiver. I mean, that was so cool.
Well, you're really good too, by the way.
But, you know, are you kidding? You're 10 years old and you got a quiver full of arrows. You feel pretty cool. So, but it makes me think about how it's as if you were carrying an arsenal, you know, a quiver on us at all times, so that when we need to cast something down, it's a quick draw. It's there. You need that identity. You need to know exactly what you're chasing, what you're believing for, so that, you know, because I think casting things down is speaking. It's always speaking. You're interrupting that thought with the positive thing that's in your journal that you're believing for.
That's absolutely. Well, take sickness or disease, for example. To observe the appearances of disease produces the form of disease in our own mind. I mean, you now have the image of that. You've internalized the image of that disease, and ultimately in our body. Unless we hold the thought of the truth in our quiver, which is that there is no disease, there can only be an appearance of a disease, and the reality is that we hold in the expectations of our mind by gratitude and the vibrant, life-giving health substance that transforms anything that would be anything other than our health perfected.
And anyone that is using kinetic belief to overcome a sickness and ailment, I have to say that person is always, to me, just the biggest badass. Because it's the healing, the overcoming of the sickness. You know, sickness is always in your face. You can feel it in your body. It's ever present. I mean, so you're overcoming it every second of every day. And you've got these, you know, scientists or doctors or whatever. They seem like they just know everything, telling you something contradictory, and that requires a level of boldness that is superhuman.
True. Yes, and understanding that, you know what, things change. And so I'm going to change things as they change toward the better.
Yes,
toward
I love
the
that.
best.
I love that.
Okay, sure, this may be a fact right now, but the truth is, my subjective truth is health, because I am healing, I am prosperous, and I get to determine where my present moment of now is going, the direction that it's going.
I love that. That may be the fact, but I know my truth. Let me tell you about it, doctor.
There you go.
Doc.
But you know what? In the same way, to just look upon the appearances of poverty. And that's all. If you just look at poverty, that produces corresponding forms of lack in our own thoughts. Unless we cast those thoughts down and hold to the thought of the truth that there is no poverty or lack, there is only abundance.
Yes.
That's all there is. So now to think health when surrounded by the appearances of disease, or to think abundance when in the midst of the appearances of poverty, both of these require the power, like you were saying, of badass, willful, meditative thoughts. Because you're going in the other direction. And then the person who develops this kind of power, that's the one that becomes a masterful kinetic believer.
Yeah.
The 1%ers put fate in its place, I guess is what I'm saying, and which is back under their control. Fate is under the control of the 1%ers, but now they've discovered how to remove dysfunction from their lives in order to manifest exactly what they desire. This power can only be perfected after a person realizes that, you know what, there is a basic fact behind all appearances, that there is only one creative substance that responds to all thoughts, from which all things are made. And that this substance becomes a form, and that humans are permitted to impress their thoughts upon it, upon this substance, to cause it to take form, and then to become a visible thing. And then when we realize this, we're no longer doubting, and we're no longer in fear. We're no longer in worrying about things, because we know that we can manifest what we choose to create. We can attract what we desire to have, and we can achieve whatever it is that we want to achieve.
What's really exciting too is when you start, collecting manifestations, because you're building experiential knowledge. You can actually. I just always think it's so exciting when you can look back and say, I'm going to build up my belief system because I remember. When I manifested this. I know I manifested that. This is not a coincidence. I know I've already done this. There's no question. And so I always feel like that first manifestation really showing up is always just light year. It pushes you light years down the road in this process, because just even having one is something you can look to, which is exciting.
And you can build upon that.
Yeah.
And at the same time, we have to be so careful with remembrances, because as soon as you ask the ego to tell me a little bit about my life experiences, there's still a choice involved, because if you leave it up to ego's going to show up and say, well, you remember that time where you got your rear end kicked by the neighbor, by the teacher, you were a loser,
Negative.
you were told, and it goes on
All
and
your
on and
negative
on. The
stories,
narrative
yeah.
is totally negative when you leave it up to the ego. So as a first step toward getting what it is that you really, really want, let's say it's money.
Let's say it's money.
Let's just say it's money.
Because it's probably money.
And it probably is money. But you must know what kinetic belief is, how to come under the influence of kinetic belief, and how to believe in the power of kinetic belief. Kinetic belief is how faith works in the physical realm. There is faith, and people say they have faith. Well, how does faith work? And kinetic belief is how it works. A person, for example, can say that they have faith, but if they are not under the influence of kinetic belief, which is to adhere to and rely upon their belief, well, then they're not operating in real faith. So there is some confusion around the world regarding what faith actually is. And it's often meant to use someone's religion. There are a lot of variables and understandings when it comes to faith. Yeah. So what is your faith? Actually, the Bible says that faith is the substance of things hoped for and evidence of things not yet seen. Well, how many people say that when you ask them? Now, they'll say, well, it's Presbyterian, or it's Islam, or it's Baptist, or they'll tell you that that's their faith. And so the definition of faith being substance aligns with quantum physics research, indicating that, belief or faith manipulates quarks, which are subatomic particles, the building blocks for all the interactions between quantum particles that create matter, that create what we see in this realm.
Yes.
And so this is the thinking stuff from which all things are made, in which in its original state it permeates and it penetrates and it fills the inner spaces of the universe. And some call it the God particle, but that's what it is, and that's where it is. So, for example, if I hold a thought in this substance, it produces the thing that I've imagined by the thought that I was holding. It produces it. Modern humans can form things in their thoughts, and by impressing their thoughts upon the formless substance of quarks, we cause the thing that we think about to be created, to show up, to be manifested. And it's not fateful. It is an actual power of the subjective mind. And so the practice of kinetic belief, which we talk about here, causes a person to lay aside all of these other precepts and concepts of the universe, other than the monistic one that's been established in your heart, in your mind, and your desires. And it's the foundation for your gratitude and your expectations, your hopes, and all of your dreams.
And I really like that this is not eliminating fate. It's really saying how you take fate and you conquer it and you make it yours and you make it your own. And it's not some, flimsy, will it, won't it concept anymore. You're telling us scientifically how we can take it and make it a sure thing.
Well, and it's taking fate and saying, you know what, fate is not, you're not a victim to fate.
Yeah,
fate is a product of something that you set up to hit out of the park.
You
You called it fate and you said it was their fault, but it's actually your fault.
Ding, ding, ding.
You did this.
Step one.
We have to dwell upon this subjective reality until it is fixed in our minds and it becomes our habitual way of thinking. And so what do? We write them with conviction into our manifesting journals, and we read the creed statements over and over and over again, and we fix every word upon our memories. And we meditate upon them until we just, firmly believe what our words are saying. You may start off slowly, and you might write some things down that you kind of chuckle to yourself and say, yeah, I'm really going to Mars. But as you continue along that process, it becomes your fantasy becomes a reality, and you begin to internalize it with words of gratitude. You learn the language of it. You begin to speak it, and you can see in your mind's eye working those actions. And the next thing you know, you're attracting the wisdom, the counsel of God, the counsel from the universe to actually do the thing that you've imagined to do. And so as we write those with conviction into our manifesting journals, things begin to happen, and we begin to manifest and attract the very thing as we continue to immerse ourselves into those expectations.
What's so cool about this process too is as we move forward and we progress down the road toward all the things that we're believing for, toward Mars, if you will. I love how it keeps us aligned and enlightened and awakened every single day. But it also means that when we come to these critical junctures, you need to cast down the negative contradictory thought, or you need to make a choice to go left or right. You are ultimately prepared. Because it's, you can't cram for this test. It's not the last minute thing that you can, let me grab my journal and see what the heck I'm even doing here. No, you are so mindful, you're so awakened, so centered in your identity that when these things approach and come to contradict what you're doing, it's no problem.
You want to be so steeped in your expectations that those contradictions have nowhere to land.
Yeah.
And you've been prepared for it.
That's beautiful.
Because if a doubt comes to you, and they will come, when that doubt shows up, if you start to become double-minded and you cast the thought down as just some ugly, no good, low-life sin, it's a lie, doesn't belong here, shame, I don't want it.
Shame.
It's an enemy to your purpose. It's an enemy to your genius of purpose.
Wow.
And you see it as an enemy that has somehow come into your encampment. Don't listen to arguments, debates, or reasonings against your idea. Don't go to churches. Don't listen to lectures where there's a contrary concept of things that's being taught or preached about.
Well, it's such a fascinating way to say it, that it's an enemy trying to come into your encampment. That gives us the sense of, hey, we are declaring war on anything trying to alter the life that we know we're meant to live, who we're supposed to be. And that takes it up a notch, doesn't it? I mean, in the reality.
Takes it up a notch, and then what are you doing? Before you even get out of bed in the morning, or as soon as your feet hit the floor, reach for your quiver, because you're going to be guarding the borders. You want to protect your borders from the border bullies and make sure that you are not allowing access to you and your dreams and aspirations by allowing the enemy to come into your encampment.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then the next thing, hey, don't even ask why what I'm telling you is true.
That got me. And next, don't even worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
I'm right.
Cast down that question.
Yes.
Because look, don't you dare speculate as to how this can be true. Just simply apply the power of kinetic belief on trust in your God-given authority to attract your experiences. You can actually spend the rest of the days of your life questioning truth, which produces double-mindedness. So the science of manifestation begins with the absolute acceptance of belief in this truth. This is faith. This is how you control the substance of things hoped for, which is evidence of things not yet seen.
Well, and we all have a knowing, don't we? We know this to be true. We know we have this power, even if it's buried under a lifetime of bad experiences and bad information. We know it to be true. I mean, you've given the example before, which I love. There's a reason that we don't leave the house going, see you later, honey. I hope I'm not in a car wreck today. I mean, because we know, we have the knowing that words have power. Our words have power over our experiences.
You have a knowing because within each one of us, there is a longing for individual expression. It's like the sunflower seed wanting to become a sunflower. It's purpose. And we have that seed of purpose within all of us.
Our nature.
Living the life all of us were placed into this world to experience, that is a co-creative freedom. And there's a collective right for the individual expression. We come into this world with that right. And it is a right that cannot be taken away. No one can show up and take your right to become an expression of your individual self from you. It can't be permitted. In fact, no one can remove it. No one can remove your genius of purpose, whether you experience it or allow it to take root and grow or not. It's still there. No one can take that from you. And it would be the same as someone saying that, you know what, from this day forward, no person shall have the free use of their awareness. Good luck with that.
The thought police.
Not going to happen.
They wish.
Every human is created with awareness. Now, there's a reason for that. And it may appear to have been removed by other forces. They might like to think or try to cause a person to believe that it's been removed. But the reality is it cannot be taken from anyone. Now, you can give away the authority of your creative dominion. Sure, you can give that to someone else, but it cannot be unwillingly removed. And the only way freedom can be removed is through confusion, double-mindedness, to get you doubting, through gaslighting, through breadcrumbing, through reasoning with things and becoming double-minded. That's the only way.
You know, this is also why it's so important to make sure we're not going through life being a critic, because the joke's on you. You're actually undermining your own natural identity and your own truth when you're critical of others living theirs. And that's something that I remember years ago, I caught about myself. You know, I can't say I was crazy critical, but you know, you're sizing people up. I like her pants. I don't like her pants, whatever. But the point being that even the smallest criticism is a negative spirit, and you're receiving that into your own mind.
That's such a good point. You know, actually, negative criticism, judgments like that, it actually produces a divided mind within yourself. Because as you judge another person to be, you're actually seeing yourself through that lens now. In other words, those silly looking pants, I would never wear that, so I'm judging you negatively. Now, you applied that, what you consider to be negative silly pants, to yourself, so you are...
Well, now I'm like, oh, I can't wear, what am I wearing? What am I doing?
You have a divided mind. Right, that's correct. And so that the knowledge of freedom cannot be revealed to a divided mind.
That's beautiful, though, isn't it? This idea that there's a circuitous route to celebrating other people and then in turn celebrating ourselves. Even having the ability to celebrate self, it goes hand in hand with the ability to celebrate anything that someone else is doing. When
we celebrate, edify, encourage, and champion other people, we actually feel separate from what's going on around us. It separates us to championing other people, and it separates us from the world in a positive way.
Yeah.
And then our manifesting freedoms begin to rearrange the world around us into the lens of our best expectations. And so back to the little word fate, that's just a result of confusion. Fate is a result of negative judgment. Fate is a result of you saying, I don't like her silly pants. So you are opening yourself up to, quote, fate, and to the extent to which the world now is pushing you around rather than you pushing the world around.
Yeah. Wow.
Freedom from fate, that is the ultimate goal.
Freedom from fate, yes. Yeah.
That's it.
Because now we can actually know beyond any doubt that we are determining that. You know, we are. And you know, for me, a big part of this early on especially, it was talking myself into over and over again, reminding myself that, look, the little things aren't so little. The critique about the pants, it's not a small thing. And talking casually to a friend and saying, oh, I'm so sick of this. It's not a small thing. You know, houses are built one brick at a time, and these are the building blocks of being a kinetic believer, having that successful life, waking up full of joy, peace, not needing to conjure it up all the time, actually having this natural, you know, identity-centric, full existence.
And there's a process to that. There's a process to the becoming identity-centric, and it begins and it also ends now, in the present moment, not in the future.
Right.
It's here and it's now. And that's the good report of life as it was meant to be. All things good, all things excellent, all things that are desirable, and they are now, and they are in this present moment. In other words, the more my actions are directed toward future pleasures, when I get there, then I will.
Yes.
When I direct my actions in that way, toward future pleasures and dreams come true, eventually, the idea that I will one day, my ship will come in, the new desire to have something that I don't believe I already have, the more I am incapable of enjoying any pleasures at all.
Right.
Because they are elusive. They don't exist in the future. So for all pleasures and all good things, good health, happiness, joy, wealth, peace of mind, the abundant life, all good things are present. All good things are in this moment.
Well, and bringing your mind into this moment, it just makes sense. I mean, what you just said just makes so much sense because you can see it. You can see that when you defer a success into your future and you fixate on that, you're also deferring satisfaction. You're also deferring peace. You're taking it you could have right now, and you're just sending it off into the future. It becomes so elusive, and that's when depression can set in so quickly. Anxiety, it becomes a dark place to be. So I love this idea of collecting all the good things, making sure that they're present now, seeing it now.
Because in a sense, to defer a good thing is you're saying to yourself, I don't have it.
Yeah.
And so if you don't have it, well, all that's left is depression. I'm sad because I don't have it.
Right.
There is nothing but complete awareness of the present moment that can even begin to guarantee future happiness. Now, and I can act in a certain way, for example, so that I can eat tomorrow, so that we can go to the store tomorrow. I can act in a certain way. Or act in a certain way so that you and I can take a trip to the mountains next week or to Costa Rica for the next New Year. But there's really no way of being certain that this will make me happy. Actually, it's a common experience that, nothing ruins a potential pleasure so much as watching yourself, seeing yourself in the midst of it to see if it pleases you.
Right.
Because we can see this at its extreme by noticing, for example, the fans of a professional sporting event. The level of pleasure, as it just goes up and down according to who scored last. It's back and forth to the high and then the low.
Yeah.
So solely based upon which team is doing better. We did watch some of the, I don't know if you watched or not. You were in the room with me. But some of the Denver Broncos game
let's
against...
say I was watching.
Okay, you were watching. Some of the Denver Broncos game against the Kansas City Chiefs over the weekend. And Denver would score a touchdown, and people in the stands, they're jumping up and down, and they're yelling, and families are hugging, and the dads and sons were... hugging each other probably for the first time. And
I love you.
And I love you, and I've always loved you too. And together we will endure. And then the Chiefs would score, and the camera showed people slumping into their seats and frowning in their faces and their hands and just staring at the scoreboard, and their lives were miserable.
And slapping their sons.
And taking the hot dog back from the sun, whatever it is. But nothing ruins pleasure as much as leaving it up to fate, the circumstances that you see going on around you, and saying, I will be happy when Denver scores. Yeah. Well, good luck with that.
Well, it makes, and that analogy actually makes me wonder if, fate is just this really close cousin to emotion, because they seem to be interlinked and one even maybe determined by the other, the type of fate when we don't control it.
And what happens with emotions? They're always changing. So if you are attached to your emotions, then your destiny is always changing according to how you feel about a certain thing. A lot of people say, well, I will do it when I feel like I should because I follow my feelings. Well, that's double-mindedness. A person that can overcome their emotions can accomplish anything in this life. Yes. So leaving for example, our happiness up to all those extenuating circumstances, leaving our present moment of enjoyment up to our hometown team? Are you kidding me? To score enough touchdowns to make me continuously happy? I mean, all of us, regardless of who we are, can only live in one moment at a time. And we cannot think simultaneously about, listening to the waves and whether or not we're enjoying listening to the waves. I mean, those are two different things. These are the contradictions that create the appearance of being busy, a person that's always busy, task-minded. I mean, it's the action of distraction, and it's life without the freedom of creative expression. Yes. And now that we've established, and I think we have, that fate is just simply a small word used to define the life
Yes.
that we see developing around us, how do we change it? I mean, what are we going to do to change this? How do we change the fate of our circumstances? Well, in order to attract and to manifest exactly what we desire, we must act, and in order to act, we must apply pressure. Now, the manifestation of all good things in the present moment is self-evident. The force of attraction can only be applied within one's self, in other words. That's where all the action takes place. It's going on inside of us. So if you were to use external forces that can only be made to act in a certain way by compelling them to obey you, and to compel them to obey you, you've got to use your internal force of kinetic belief. That's the only way. And I don't mean taking your dominion in a wrong way to manipulate others to behave a certain way. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about using correctly the power of kinetic belief to manifest what you desire in the external world around you. And so whether I am seeking, for example, health or wealth, some kind of development or position in life, happiness to continuously be my state of mind, I've got to expect it. I have to expect to get it in the only way by which it will come and not bring with it, the potential for loss. And that's by applying my own inward force. Inward force. Now, you may be thinking that the force within you just isn't strong enough. Somebody says, well, I'm just too weak-minded. I don't have any authority in my household. I don't seem to have authority in my life. My life has become everyone's but mine. Maybe you don't think you have what it takes, or you're just too weak to do it without someone helping you. No, listen, the creative power within you is all the force there is. It's no less and it's no more than all there is. You are one with oneness, and the power within you contains all of the potentialities of all of life.
Yes.
All life is the same. All of it. Now, you may believe that it's different within you, and it's causing some of the issues we're talking about, but all life is the same, and all life contains the same essentials, the same powers, and the same possibilities. Nobody ever had a talent which you don't have, either as developed or an undeveloped faculty. Other people have developed talents because it was part of their genius, a purpose that you've not developed. But you have within you the same talent that could be developed. Nobody ever did a thing which you cannot do by developing the faculty or the talent that's required to do it. And since perfection has not been reached in anything ever in this world, no one has ever been perfectly perfected a thing. Nobody ever did anything so well that you can't do it better. And if you properly imagine to desire something, even if it's to grow taller, I did that. And it hurts, to be prepared for the pain. But even if it's to grow taller or become healed or become younger, I am telling you that the power is within you, and it is only a matter of development. The force which can build a few new cells can build a new body if it's continuously directed in the power of kinetic belief to manifest change into your life. Given the fact that every single person has this force, Maggie, it all becomes a matter of intentionally directing the force, because the universe is always working along two general lines, integrating electrons and quarks and atoms, attracting them together into forms, and then scattering and dispersing the same electrons and quarks and atoms and dissolving forms. That's it. So the power of focused thought within the human reactor, and I love to see it as like a nuclear reactor. It's the human reactor. The power of focused thought within the human reactor employs continuous construction and destruction. There's no duality. In other words, nothing works outside of the vacuum that's formed by what a person believes.
Well, and understanding the science of this is such a powerful tool, because that even allows us to apply imagination to everything that you just described. Instead it takes us from, rubbing the magic lamp and hoping that the genie's, in a good mood today, to this being our reality. This has scientific basis. These are the inner workings of the universe. And so it's a sure thing. We get to actually imagine the science behind it, the universe behind this, how we're drawing all of these things in, why it's working.
What do you believe?
Yeah.
What do you really believe? And it's not important to believe what you think is the objective proof, has been objectively proved, or the majority believes, but what do you believe about a thing?
Yes.
Because that's everything. It's what you believe about it. And when you're asked, when somebody says, well, what do you believe? Or ask yourself, well, what do I believe? Make sure that whatever it is defined in a positive way. A positive way. A life-filled positive way. Because that's why, if you're in show business, don't read your press.
If you're not in show business, don't read your press.
If you're not in show business, don't read your press.
Everybody's on Yelp,
Don't read it.
Don't read your reviews.
In fact, don't even touch the dial. Just turn it off.
Get a flip phone.
If you're starting a business, don't listen to the advice of others who've not successfully operated a business.
Yeah.
If it's negative, that is, because there's always a way forward. There's always a way to manifest exactly what you desire. But it's going to take the power of your own personal thoughts operating within your personal constructive reactor. And when you open the door to that furnace, you'd better be throwing in meat for the tiger, coal for the furnace.
Yes.
You'll know what to do. As long as your imaginative vision is not corrupted, you're going to know what to do. You don't need to know what to do a year from now today. But when when your moment of now gets to a year from now, as long as your imaginative vision has not been corrupted, you will know what to do because wisdom always comes to that one. It's universally available to every single person who expects it. To everybody that asks for it, wisdom comes. When the wisdom for your desire shows up, you're just going to know that you know how to begin using certain mental and physical materials that are around you to form them in the perfect relationship that needs to be formed. You're just going to know that you know how to attract certain people and certain things. And when they show up, you're going to know exactly what they should and should not be doing. And they're going to know because they too were attracted to the vacuum of opportunity that's been created from your focused desires, and then you're just going to combine them together in a certain way. The puzzle becomes clear, and the pieces they just fit together.
Yeah.
Just as in building a house, you're laying bricks exactly where they go, not randomly, but you're putting them in an order that's going to create something, and where they go is shown to you through higher consciousness. And just like the best bricklayer, you're not going to waste any time in irrelevant and negative actions, because every act becomes distinctly positively constructive. And with each brick that you're laying, each puzzle piece laid properly, the next one is then attracted to create the life that you've imagined. You and I love the movie, The Greatest Showman.
Yes.
And I've become such a fan of it.
Yeah.
When we're flying, I love to just put it on again, listen to the music, and I think it's great with Hugh Jackman and
It's
Zac
such a
Efron.
feel-good
Absolutely.
movie.
It's a musical that, it's loosely based on the Barnum and Bailey circus. In my mind, it's exactly the way the circus was. But anyway,
Yes.
by some measures, the movie's success is actually, did you know it's approaching that of the Titanic now?
Really? That's
Which
so
is
great.
phenomenal. But
love
it's
that.
become a
That's
huge
good.
worldwide phenomenon. Well, it took 9 years for the producers to imagine that movie,
Wow.
to journal their desires, to be gratefully excited about it, without which they wouldn't have sustained the vision for 9 years. 9 years of speaking the words of the vision. 9 years of creating the music. 9 years of learning the vocabulary. Now remember, words are things, and acting in faith to attract the vision is exactly what they were doing for 9 years. Wow. And then it manifested. They filmed the entire movie in less than a month.
Wow.
Wow. that is one example of the power of kinetic belief to transform things and to attract substance and talent and the puzzle pieces and the wisdom to manifest exactly what it is required for knowing which way to continue your journey. And so it's the necessity of defining our desires to do something and of knowing what it is that we want to do and what we want to experience. That's absolutely vital to the nature of any good manifestation.
And, this is also giving me such a strong, such a good and needed reminder that of time and how time works within a manifesting process, because, we want it to show up really early. I want to try to manifest something today and see it tomorrow. But it's on time. Everything's always on time in the universe. It's perfectly balanced. It's just as it should be, especially if you're consistent in your belief. And I just love the idea that when it needs to show up, it will show up. And so that means that we have to always be aware of the word you've been using today, double-mindedness, because when it doesn't show up immediately or early like we want it to, the temptation is going to be there immediately to flip-flop. Is it coming? Oh, wait, I didn't see it show up. I need a contingency plan. What if I fail? What's my backup? What's plan B? And then we start focusing on the contingency rather than the true thing that we know we're going to be receiving.
That's so good, because time is irrelevant, isn't it, if you have it now?
Yeah, present moment.
If it's already in my mind because I've imagined it, and I'm grateful for it because I have it now, well, time is a moot point. Time means nothing because I'm experiencing my happiness and joy and healing and prosperity and the imagination that I imagine to be true for me now. It is my reality. But this is what gets us to destination, is enjoying the experience, imaginative experience of it now. And things change to accommodate the expectation of our present moment.
Yes.
Meg, you and I might as well get a dinghy, go down there to the ocean, which I'm looking at out that window, and without knowing which port we want to go to, as just to get up each day without a definite creative image in our mind. It's the same thing. We'll float out there and end up floating out there and probably being washed right back up where we started from if we don't know exactly where we want to go with our imagination and a purpose, and unleashing the power of our genius of purpose to establish the course for our lives.
Well, and I like how you're always taking us back today to aggression. This requires an internal furnace, the internal, I love the reactor, the human reactor. That's so powerful because that's exactly what we're doing. It's all coming from within. And yes, we're meeting the universe halfway, but our 50% is a big 50%. And it's really the consistency of it is the fuel. And that's where the journaling comes in for me, because without that, I have to read yesterday. And I know I've said this on the podcast before, but whenever I journal, I always read yesterday's first before I do today. I want to see what's changing, or even what I'm bringing with me into today, what I'm continuing to establish.
That's so good for perspective, because what you're doing is you are hitching your wagon to a star, but you know what star it is.
Yes.
And you know why your genius of purpose desires to hitch to it.
Yeah.
And when you're hitching yourself to the star, refuse to worry. Cast down all sense of hurry when the motivation is worry. Listen, worry is friction. That's what it is. It's friction to your goal, friction to the essence of your life. Yeah. And the one and only cause of worry is fear. When fear is present, worry is always present. Meg, you and I continue to talk about how useless it is to worry, and the folly of it. And I can tell everybody not to worry. Just don't do it. Well, I'm worried. Well, don't. I can tell you that. But a person can't help worrying as long as they have fear for the future.
Yeah.
The only way to eliminate worry is to eliminate fear. So it's not going to be enough to just get rid of worry by telling yourself that it's foolish and harmful. As long as you have fear, you will continue to worry about it. And you will have fear just as long as you have doubt or uncertainty about the future. For example, as long as you have doubt or uncertainty as to whether you will be healed, like we were talking about, you're just going to worry about your health. As long as you have doubt or uncertainty as to whether you will succeed professionally, you're just going to worry about failure. Where there is no doubt or uncertainty regarding your future health or success, there can be no fear. And where there is no fear, there can be no worry. There can be no egoic friction. And the way forward without fear is to journey into your present moment with an identity that's grateful for the present tense existence of all good things.
Don't we have the cutest words for these things? Worry. I'm just worrying. I mean, what if instead of worry, we were forced to say, well, what are you doing? Well, I'm establishing a negative energetic into my present moment, and it's going to show up in my future. What if we had to say that instead?
Right, well,
the reality of it.
It becomes cute when it's a little personality quirk, right?
I'm just
and you
so
say,
worried.
oh, she's worried. We need to give her space.
Yeah. So, I mean, but, what you're doing, though, right now is you're taking us from a simple, very commonly used word, and you're saying, that's fine if we want to call it worry. But here's the reality. Here's the reality of what that is doing.
Well, and the reality is that the power is already within every single living human being, which can bring abundance if constructively, kinetically used to attract abundance. And where there is no uncertainty about wealth, a person has within the power to attract the wisdom and to develop all of their talents and to manifest it and to use it constructively.
I really love how earlier you said that, look, the power within you, that's it. That's the maximum amount of power available in the universe. And I think that's really cool because it puts us in the driver's seat yet again. It puts us in charge of our life. We can't look to something else to do this for us. Look, all the power that's even potentially available is within you. You're maxed out already.
This is the most paramount thing that motivates me in my life, is to let every person know that you are a billionaire with $1 billion worth of power in a bank account. All you need is to know the account number to go and make a withdrawal.
Yeah.
It's yours. You have it. But most people suffer an entire lifetime of not knowing what they have within themselves. It's the unawakened ego that has this bad habit of reasoning positive things as matters of uncertainty. And this is the habit, the form of mindfulness that can only be overcome by resolve. And we can only have resolve when we know that we know who we are and fall deeply in love with who we are and our abilities, which have nothing at all to do with anybody else. And we stop listening to the negative reasonings, and we turn off access to anybody that's bullying you into being anything less than you were put here by God on this planet to become.
And we're applying this to everything. This is a holistic view of life. So we're applying this to relationships, to something that may seem small. Hey, it's not small to you. It's not small if it's in your own life. So we're applying this to every facet of life, and it's all being elevated and awakened, and it's coming to fruition all together. It's really beautiful.
True. Continuous meditation and putting your hands to the 5 modalities of kinetic belief always manifests exactly what a person wants. And to the one that's willing to wait forever, 9 years, if that's what it takes for you to create your own version of the Greatest Showman, you're still, if you are willing to do that, because it has nothing to do with the time element anymore, you'll never have to wait for long. In fact, the feeling that you are birthing the baby of your desires, a feeling of exuberant gestation, is established within you. And when that shows up, you just know. You know what you know, and you will enter the poised, magnetic state of mind that is most certainly attracting your heart's desire to manifest where all the world can see it. Let's work on some highest viewpoints.
Okay.
Just say this. Say, I'm abundantly blessed.
I am abundantly blessed.
I'm aligned with my greatness.
I'm aligned with my greatness.
I will accept nothing less.
I'll accept nothing less.
You know what?
You know what?
My health is abundantly multiplying.
My health is abundantly
My
multiplying.
wealth is abundantly multiplying.
My wealth is abundantly
My
multiplying.
freedom is abundantly multiplying.
My freedom is abundantly multiplying.
My peace is abundantly multiplying.
My peace is abundantly multiplying.
I am perfectly made
I am perfectly made
to perfectly create.
to perfectly create.
And nothing is missing from my life.
Nothing is missing from my life.
Nothing is broken in my life.
Nothing is broken in my life.
I don't have love.
I don't have love.
I am love.
I am love.
I don't have a blessing.
I don't have a blessing.
I am blessed.
I am blessed.
I don't have prosperity.
I don't have prosperity.
I am prosperity.
I am prosperity.
I don't have joy.
I don't have joy.
I am joy.
I am joy.
I don't have happiness.
I don't have happiness.
I am happiness.
I am happiness.
I am.
I am.
Therefore I am.
Therefore I am.
You know, success is knowing who we are and whose we are. We are success, Maggie. We are abundant life. It is only made complicated by thinking otherwise.
Yes.
You know, William Shakespeare wrote in The Tempest, he said that we are such stuff as dreams are made on, and our little lives are rounded with a sleep. And it is that simple.
And it is that simple. What an exciting podcast it's been today. We definitely threw a lot of coal into our furnace today. I'm totally fired up.
Tiger meat.
Yeah, make sure you go to StephenKenyon.com. Because we're always posting new exciting things, goings on and new downloads, and just keep in touch with us there. And we are planning a KB workshop. It has not been announced yet, but just keep checking back for that. It's going to be on the website at some point soon. And maybe we'll see everyone down in St. Pete Beach, Florida for the Valentine's Eve extravaganza.
If not in St. Pete, we'll see you somewhere. And Happy New Year to all the KB creators all around the world. And we're sending out much love and light to all of you.
And thanks as usual, Steve, for all the wisdom.
Bye.